Proceed with your opening.
Mr. Hearing Officer, Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Dalva Mullenberg. I'm with the law firm of Gallagher and Kennedy. Also here is TJ Trujillo, associated with our firm, and we're representing the New Mexico Mining Association and the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce. The New Mexico Mining Association represents the New Mexico mining industry. Bernalillo County is not blessed with mineral resources such as copper, potash, and other minerals mined elsewhere in New Mexico. But our members include companies that produce sand, gravel, and aggregate materials used for construction in and around Bernalillo County, as well as equipment and service providers to the mining industry. Many of you are probably familiar with the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce, which is the statewide business organization that represents all types of business in New Mexico. Since we're relying on the same technical witnesses that are being presented by Ms. Olson and Mr. Rose, I won't duplicate that discussion, but I do want to touch on some key points relating to the testimony that the board has heard and will hear from the remaining witnesses in this case. We view the rule being presented for the board's consideration as a departure from the petition that the board accepted at the outset of this matter. Petitioners stated in the petition, this rule is necessary because the impacts of air pollution on low-income communities and communities of color in Bernalillo County are significant. They went on to say further, low-income communities and communities of color in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County are disproportionately impacted by air pollution and suffer disproportionate health problems because of those impacts. And the petition further identified some particular neighborhoods of concern. The testimony you've now heard is the basis for the rule that or the proposed rule you're considering, is that the entirety of Bernalillo County is overburdened based on the definition of that term as proffered by petitioners. And that I think is fairly consistent with the mapping provided by various parties. Consequently, petitioners have now proposed a rule that would apply the HEI permit rule to most of Bernalillo County and nearly all of the urban developed areas within the county. Consequently, the proposed rule is not focused on low-income communities and communities of color as discussed in the petition. And importantly, it's not narrowly crafted to address concerns regarding a concentration of stationary sources in particular communities. As we read the testimony, petitioners essentially are asserting that the existing stationary source permitting criteria, based on federal and state criteria developed over many years and incorporated into the board's existing rules, is inadequate for Bernalillo County. Consequently, the proposal before you is to adopt new health and environmental risk criteria, both for defining overburdened communities and as criteria to determine when a permit can be issued. These risk criteria are among the most, if not the most, stringent in the country. Moreover, as you have heard and will hear from our witnesses, these criteria are proposed as a basis for mandatory permit denial without consideration of the availability of control technologies or the practicability of meeting the permit criteria. If control technologies or process changes to meet the proposed risk criteria are not available or are cost prohibitive, then the outcome of the HEI rule is permit denial. Moreover, even if a permit may be granted The HEEI rule would require expensive and complex additional monitoring and mitigation measures. Albuquerque is not and never has been the home of those industries commonly referred to as heavy industries, such as petroleum refining, steel mills, petrochemical manufacturing, large-scale chemical manufacturing, or metal smelting or refining. Even large power plants that supply energy are largely located outside of the county. Consequently, we don't need a rule here to address heavy industries. Instead, the types of businesses located in Bernalillo County are largely those that provide goods and services produced and consumed locally. These are construction firms, businesses who provide materials to construct and pave highways and local roads. They are local healthcare providers, firms providing transportation facilities and laboratory research facilities. Indeed, the rule may affect light manufacturing that the state and local governments are trying to attract, such as renewable energy manufacturing. The mandatory permit denial criteria in particular, and other aspects of the proposed rule, if adopted, will deter these types of businesses from locating within Bernalillo County. The testimony will also show that most of the existing emissions and associated health risks within the county are from mobile sources for which no permits are required under the rule, particularly truck and automobile traffic. Obviously, the proposed rule will not require permits and therefore will not reduce air pollution from those sources or from natural sources such as dust storms or from burning forests during the fire season that produce fine particulate matter. You've not heard any testimony projecting or attempting to quantify the anticipated benefits of the proposed rule, either in terms of anticipated reduction in air pollutant levels or improved air quality, or in terms of better health outcomes. However, our witnesses are presenting evidence on the substantial costs of the proposed HEEI rule, which, if adopted by the board, will impact existing businesses, possibly even discourage them from making facility changes that might reduce overall emissions, and which will discourage other businesses from locating within the county. Consequently, we're urging we're urging the board not to adopt the rule as proposed by petitioners and for consideration by the board in this proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bullenberg. I think at this time we're going to take a break before those witnesses are called. We do have public comment starting at 5:30 through 6:30. And I think we anticipate a 1.5 hour dinner break. So we'll reconvene with the witnesses at about 7 o'clock. But we'll take a break till public comment. Unless there's anything further from the board? Nothing? Okay.
Well, I don't know what's gonna happen. I have no idea. But
All right, if we can settle, we'll commence public comment. And we've got our timer. Yeah. All right, you may call the first for public comment.
Peter Nipper. Peter Nipper.
I think he's stepping forward.
Thank you.
You can point the podium this direction. If you, and just there you go. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
And state your name and please spell your last name.
My name is Peter. Last name Nipper. Knipper.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. They will signal you when you've got 1 minute left.
Thank you. I'm a resident of the South Valley. I am a farmer. I'm a ecologist, and I recreate in our great state. Some facts that you probably all know is, according to the American Lung Association, we have the 24th worst air quality because of the ozone. But we also have the 23rd best open space system from the ranking of the Public Land Trust. We are in the top 10 of biking cities in America. I'm here to talk on behalf of what we have now and also what we could have. One of the biggest growing industries in New Mexico is the outdoor recreational industry, and all those used and are centered in the city. The HEEI regulation would protect and allow equitable access for all to the clean and clear air we all need to breathe and thrive. COVID has taught us the importance of breathing and the importance and how much. Thank you. We also have the Balloon Fiesta. The Balloon Fiesta is one of the events in the city that has the greatest economic impact. About $203 million each year. And for that, because it is the most photographed event of the world, we need clean and clear air. I ask you, please make this regulation to keep the city how it is, and so we can all thrive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Helga Garza.
Ms. Garza, if you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
You've got 3 minutes. They'll signal you when you've got 1 minute left.
Good evening to all. My name is Helga Garza. I am a South Valley, Bernalillo County resident. I come here today to bring the voice of our small-scale regenerative farmers within Bernalillo County. Agricultura Cooperative Network is a network of over 60 small-scale farmers using organic methods to growing food. We've been changing through procurement policy work the investments that are made within food production here in New Mexico. In favor, we now have, and we service food from our local farmers through public education department, senior nutrition sites, early childhood centers. We also service UNMH Hospital, Presbyterian, various clinics through their RX Food is Medicine food pantries. And we move collectively together about 10 to 13,000 pounds of New Mexico grown fruits and vegetables and beef, because we also work with our small scale ranchers. So for us, it's very important to really look at the future of our food economy. And this is what our organization and our local farmers have been doing, not only preserving cultural ancestral practices in growing food, but also securing New Mexico's food security in the future. So for us, it's very important to understand the necessity that we have for clean air, land that provides not only in this generation, but future generations. So I come here today to ask, we understand permitting. We have to go through various permitting in order to market raw produce into these institutional buyers and our community. Our community has invested so much in developing a local food system that not only takes care of the earth as good stewards of the land, but also provides positive health impacts and economic activity, and also preserves our precious environment. I come here with what we experienced on August 6th of this year with that plastic fire in the South Valley and within Bernalillo County. We have a farm training program called Grow the Growers that we farm out of the Gutierrez Hubble House, and we partner with Bernalillo County Open Space.
You're at 3 minutes, if you can just wrap.
If I could what?
If you can finish up real quick.
Okay. We were put in danger through that fire. We could not, our farmers could not be out there for 3 days because the air quality was putting them in danger and putting our production of food that goes back into our community in danger as well. So I'm here just to bring that voice of how important we all eat, and we all need clean air, clean water, and adequate land to grow and feed our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Julie Radoslavich.
Raise your right hand, please. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
You can proceed. You've got 3 minutes. If you can spell your last name, please.
My last name is spelled R-A-D as in dog, O-S as in Sally, L-O-V as in Victor, I-C-H.
Thank you. You've got 3 minutes.
Chair Paul and Vice Chair Richards and members of the Air Quality Board. My name is Julie Radoslavich. I serve as the president of the Pat Hurley Neighborhood Association and am a member of the Metropolitan Parks and Recreation Advisory Board here in the city. This is the third time coming to testify to this board. And quite frankly, I am stunned by the dissolution of this board on Monday night by our Albuquerque City Council. I want to say thank you for hearing us this week, and thank you for listening to us this week. I care deeply about neighborhoods and the impact that zoning decisions have upon the daily life of residents, as well as the rivers and the montañas we hold sacred here in New Mexico. I grew up in the South Valley, and whenever my father exited the freeway and drove west on Rio Bravo in our Dodge van filled with children, he would take a breath and comment, "Well, we're here in the valley." Literally, the smell of sewage and industrial pollution greeted us as we entered the valley floor. And it is hard to believe that 50 years later, the Mountain View Neighborhood Association and the area is still fighting industrial air pollution. And in late August, as Elga mentioned, it was hard to watch a black plume of smoke swirl unrestrained as plastic fueled and frenzied burn, polluting our air and water. And I'm appalled that Isleta Pueblo had to ask to be informed what was transpiring days later, rather than local government reaching out directly, immediately to them as a sovereign nation. What I didn't mention, that in addition to living in the South Valley, I worked for 20 years as a principal and director of South Valley Academy, just 2 miles from the Rio Grande. I cycled to work. I connected with students to service learning opportunities that addressed Superfund sites in the community, and also supported efforts to bring Valle de Oro, our country's first urban refuge, to the heart of Mountain View. We can no longer ignore the community impact of air pollution. The South Valley, specifically Mountain View, is an overburdened community, meaning that it is already facing the disparate impacts of existing air pollution. A human can survive weeks without food, days without water, but only a few minutes without air. As a concerned resident of Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque, I believe the HEEI regulation will improve air quality across Bernalillo County, not just the Mountain View neighborhood. And truly, it addresses the fact that some communities have done more than their fair share of bearing the brunt of air pollution for 50 years. And I myself am a testament to that.
Thank you. Next.
Emily Arasim Beltran.
Ms. Beltran, if you can raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name.
My name is Emily Arasim Beltran. That's ARASIM-BELTRAN.
You've got 3 minutes.
I am a candidate for a master's degree in community and regional planning at the University of New Mexico and focus on land use planning, zoning issues, and economic development planning to protect land and people. I also have the honor of working on a daily basis in the Mountain View community and on various environmental justice projects, including a newly emerging community air monitoring network. I have made comments to this board various times, so I'm going to try to keep it fresh. The first thing I want to reflect on is we're repeatedly hearing the claim that the HEEI regulation will kill all economic development in Albuquerque. We know that there's absolutely no evidence behind this claim. None has been presented and none can be presented because it's false and it's a statement based on fear mongering and bullying. On the other hand, what we do have profound evidence, fact-based evidence for, is the dire health impacts being faced by community members in overburdened neighborhoods, as well as evidence of the successful implementation of similar regulations in other places. It's overwhelmingly clear that fact, data, and evidence are all lining up behind the proponents of this regulation, and that those who oppose it are basing their arguments on generalizations and lies. I also think that we should be frank about the other part of this lie about killing all economic development. We know that the HEEI regulation does not intend to do this, but rather to more equitably spread out development in our city. I believe that industries are scared of not being able to continue predatory practices in the communities that they have harmed for decades and are afraid of what it will take to try to spread development out into more wealthy and privileged communities who will balk at the idea of this type of pollution and industry in their own backyards. I would also ask us to reflect on the many young people and young professionals who you've seen testifying in front of you over the last few days. We are the generation that should be defining what economic development looks like in our city. And if you are listening to our calls, we are calling for clean development and sustainable local businesses. The type of economic development actors that our generation is asking for would not cower or cry or try to shut down a positive life-affirming regulation like HEEI. The representatives of the type of business and development actors that we want in our city would support this regulation and support the idea of being good neighbors who know that there is no economy without healthy people. As a UNM student and graduate student, I'll also make a side note that I'm really disturbed by the UNM Board of Regents' appearance in this regulation. The students, alumni, and faculty of UNM have had no opportunity to have a voice. We were not consulted, we were not asked, and I think it's very disingenuous for the UNM Board of Regents to claim to represent students and faculty in this hearing. Lastly, I'll say that I know that this regulation asks a lot of you and it asks a lot of the Environmental Health Department, but I encourage the board and the EHD to bravely embrace this. Our communities deserve this, especially our vulnerable children, our pregnant mothers, our farmers and land-based peoples who spend all day outside breathing the air. We deserve this, and we are really looking to you to be brave actors and models for what community-based and positive regulation looks like in our city. We can be a national model, and this is our opportunity. Thank you for all you're going to do to get us there.
Thank you. Next.
Cecilia Huizar.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes.
State your name and spell your last name.
Cecilia Huizar, it's Huizar.
You may proceed.
The HEI regulation is not just about protecting overburdened communities. It is about everyone in Bernalillo County and our neighbors, because we are interconnected. The bulk of the pollution in the atmosphere today has been created in the past few decades. However, we have yet to see the true effects of the accumulation in present time. The effects that we're experiencing today are pollutants that were released in the last century and prior. Let me repeat that. The bulk of the pollution in the atmosphere today has only been created in the past few decades. We have yet to see the true effects of this accumulation in present time. You can, and I'm speaking to industry over here, you can bring all your experts, you can publish all your studies physically possible, but the reality is one cannot predict the actual long-term effects. The climate crisis is hitting our planet faster than scientists originally predicted, and it is only accelerating. So we need to start monitoring the accumulation of pollutants. We currently have no baseline. This needs to be through community-based participatory research. As we've seen time and time again, research institutions, those who are present here today, receive money from industry and are incentivized to conclude the lack of evidence between toxins and detrimental health effects, rather than following the precautionary principle, ultimately weaponizing the scientific method against community health to provide continual wealth to corporate industry and research institutions. Look at where we are at today. No entity currently holds corporations truly accountable for the contamination and the irreparable harm caused to communities and the land. And when industries speak of unfriendly to business, tell me, what future would business have in the city of Albuquerque when the land is contaminated to the point that the people are slowly dying of sickness? What is the point of short-term economic boost when the long-term effects result with businesses moving to other cities, leaving residents with medical bills? And the bulk of the economic benefits are ones overburdened communities never see.
1 minute.
Or else Mountain View would be among the richest in the county, right? Or at least have a grocery store. All one has to do is visit South Valley, visit the Mountain View, and see the blatant discrimination. The industry encroachment has exacerbated these disparities and will continue to do so as long as we don't hold them accountable. We have a choice right now to change the way we operate. Our future generations don't. We think we can control the environment. We think we can control nature. Remember that we are at the mercy of nature. This is a reminder that the laws of nature are the ultimate laws of the land. Speaking as a descendant of Cascan, traditional knowledge or native science is time-tested community science. In a Eurocentric lens, it is scientific method over thousands of years or time immemorial. But what we do today, we don't see the effects until the 7th generation. Know that the young people are watching. My generation and the generation after me are already asking, what happened to our water? What is happening to our air? When I speak for the yet to be born.
Thank you. Time is up. Thank you. Next.
Michael Guerrero.
Mr. Cadetto, if you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
You've got 3 minutes. You'll be signaled when you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Michael Leon Guerrero. I'm the Sustainable Economy Policy Advisor for the Center for Civic Policy. I also want to thank you for deciding to continue this hearing despite the effort of special interests to abolish the body and prevent this hearing. And I also want to acknowledge the Mountain View Coalition and Los Jardines Institute for bringing forward this important proposal. I've been a resident of Bernalillo County since 1987. Beginning in 1988, I was hired as a community organizer for the Southwest Organizing Project to work with the Mountain View community in addressing longstanding and serious environmental pollution issues in the neighborhood. We established the Mountain View Advisory Council to oversee environmental investigations related to Kirtland Air Force Base, and over the course of several years, addressed many other issues. During this time, I served as co-chair of the Bernalillo County Kirtland Environmental Working Group, an interagency body established by Congressman Schiff at the request of the Mountain View community. We oversaw several federal and state investigations of Kirtland and Sandia Labs that potentially threatened Mountain View and other surrounding communities. Mountain View helped to define environmental justice nationally and globally. Through regional and national grassroots networks, the voices from communities like Mountain View, East Austin, West Dallas, South Tucson, and South Los Angeles built a movement that eventually was recognized by presidential executive order. If you visit the Mountain View neighborhood, the many air quality threats that the community faces is obvious. The city sewer plant is located there. There are asphalt factories, large-scale gasoline storage facilities, oil recycling facilities, and more. The community lives in the shadow of one of the city's first set landfills and still hosts the largest solid waste transfer station nearby. Traffic is heavy with city and residential waste haulers, gas tankers, and freight trains. And as Dr. Martinez testified yesterday, the community has been evacuated twice because of industrial chemical releases and explosions. And for years, Mountain View had a volunteer fire station to respond to these events. Cumulative impacts have been an issue for communities like Mountain View for decades, which is why there are cumulative impact policies in places like New Jersey and Minnesota. These policies are designed to protect those people that bear the burden of our region's pollution. They are not asking for special protection. They are asking for the protection they deserve for bearing the disproportionate burden on their health and environment that we all place on them. The only other solution is to share the burden. One campaign we organized in Mountain View was in response to the city of Albuquerque's proposal to place a large-scale solid waste transfer station in Mountain View. Residents spoke out and demanded that other areas of the city take on their share of the responsibility. The result was that transfer stations were built to serve the West Side, North Valley, Northeast Heights, and the South Valley. If the rest of the city is willing to also take on the additional industrial air pollution burden, then I would imagine the residents of Mountain View would welcome that. In the absence of this approach,
You're at
industries
3
located
minutes.
in the Mountain View
Just
community
finish
should
up.
be held to the highest environmental standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cadetto. Next,
Mark Leclerc.
good evening. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
State your name, spell your last name.
My name is Mark Leclaire, Leclaire.
Thank
And I came down this evening to enter into the record my personal story. About 2 years ago, I lost my mom to Parkinson's disease. She was a lifelong teacher, and by the end of her life, she could not even read or write. The last several years of her life were debilitating and a huge struggle on our family, my father in particular. She required full-time care. And just as Mr. Lewis was bringing forth his bill to abolish the Air Board, a study came out by a group called Barrow Neurological, and there is finding increasingly strong links between air pollution, particularly particulate matter, and these debilitating diseases like Parkinson's. And I believe it's our responsibility as a community. We have got to consider the impacts of these types of diseases. It has a huge impact that can last, I believe, for generations. My family was lucky. My father was able to care for my mom. But I'm sure that for many families, this would put them in a dire position that could last for generations. We don't even know the effects of the pollution. We don't even know how much pollution we have in our air right now. I strongly believe that it's our government's responsibility to study this, to measure it, to set regulations that protect us. And I feel that our government has failed us. I just want to applaud you for your courage, for being here and seeing this through. And I think in a sane world, Mr. Lewis, with his oil and gas interests, would have recused himself. It's disgusting that instead he is abusing his position of power to try to shut this whole thing down. So thank you, each and every one of you, for your service.
Thank you very much. Next.
Abel Romero.
Mr. Romero, if you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
State your name for the record, please.
My name's Abel Romero.
Go ahead. You've got 3 minutes.
I decided to stop by because I work downtown. And more than anything, I've been furious at the specter that's hanging over the board and these proceedings. I'm a young person, well, I'm 27. I'm not like, the youth anymore. But I'm lucky enough to live in a neighborhood that has decent air quality. I know that many parts of our city do not. And it is just so infuriating to me that the Albuquerque City Council and the conservative coalition that is running and abusing the whole thing has decided to do away with a board that is trying to do something to improve the quality of life and the health of our people. They haven't done anything recently, and I'm sorry, I want to put this in the public record. We have a city council that has failed to provide housing for its people, that has failed to improve public safety, that has failed to provide jobs and economic security to people. Their supposed rationale for attacking air quality regulations, they have completely failed to do anything productive, and the right-wing reactionaries on the board have to make a public stunt and get together with their industry colleagues so that they can keep the money rolling in and they can try to win re-election when most of them are up in 2025. It infuriates me because I know what's happening and I can see what's happening, and nothing is improving for the people here of Albuquerque. My point is, you guys are trying to do that. Cumulative impact is a standard approach to assessing environmental health effects and permitting for major polluters. I don't know why industry is so strenuously objecting to it. I'm not surprised. UNM, who's union busting their student body and exploiting their student workers, Kirtland Air Force Base, which has been spilling jet fuel into the ground for decades and is now threatening our water supply, Sandia Labs, which has a raft of its own environmental problems and has no other motivating interest than national security. I'm not surprised that people like this are putting their hands up and saying that you're going to kill every job in the city. But I have to ask, what has the continued environmental exploitation and wage exploitation and every other bit of exploitation of our people gotten us? We are not a rich city. It is time for us to stop it. And I commend and I applaud your guys' efforts. I hope that you get this rule finalized and drafted and published before this idiotic resolution goes through, and I will do whatever I can in the future to stand up against the people running our city who need to go. So anyway, thank you so much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Next.
Linda Starr.
Good evening, Ms. Starr. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding? I'm not going to ask you to raise your right hand.
I do.
Got 3 minutes.
I'm Linda Starr, a resident of Albuquerque for more than 50 years and a former resident of the South Valley for 25 of those years. I am expressing my support of the Health, Equity, and Environmental Impacts Regulation. With our county of Bernalillo among the 25 top most polluted metro areas of the country, we need to do something fast about this problem of pollution. It is poisoning our communities, not just in the South Valley, but other environmentally and economically overburdened spaces like the southeast neighborhoods of Albuquerque. We see it in vulnerable children who are absent from school due to asthma, heart, lung, brain diseases, and other chronic issues. I am a tutor, a volunteer tutor of Albuquerque Reads, and I teach literacy to children in kindergarten and first grade. The absenteeism for the students is pitiful, and it results in less learning for them. Our skies and streets are burdened by particulate matter, toxic releases of chemicals, and the proximity of traffic. I've seen it as I volunteer for the National Wildlife Refuge at Valle de Oro, which is right on the edge of the industry that plans to build asphalt plant in the area of the South Valley. Valle de Oro is the only wildlife refuge that is in an urban area. I've cleaned up litter there, and I've removed invasive species from the ground. How can families contribute to our well-being if they suffer from food insecurity and poverty? There are premature deaths, crime increase, all due to industrial pollution. We see way more smog than we used to. Because of social, economic, and health inequities, communities cannot contribute to a healthy society. I urge the Air Control Board to go through with the HEEI regulations as soon as possible.
Thank you. Next.
Theo Keeley Leclerc.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
State your name, spell your last name.
My name is Theo Keeley Leclerc. That's KEELECLAIRE.
Thank you. You've got 3 minutes.
I was born here in Albuquerque. I live here. I live in the downtown neighborhood, and I recently took a job in the Mountain View neighborhood. I have a degree in chemical and biological engineering from Princeton University, so hopefully at least I understand what's going on, generally speaking. I bike to work every day, and working in Mountain View, that means I bike past asphalt plants, recycling plants, 2 Superfund sites, the rail transfer station, innumerable gas storage tankers. And as I bike past all of those things through air that is often hazy, I kind of have to think, sometimes I wonder how many years off my life it's taking to breathe that air. I don't think anybody should have to wonder that. And I want to remind the board, I think you know, that what we're dealing with here is violence. Air pollution is violent. It moves slowly. It shows up as asthma and as cancer, and perhaps as Parkinson's that took my grandma's life. But it is violent nonetheless. And while industry is here complaining about their rights to due process to get their air pollution permits approved, where is our due process to have healthy air? Where is our due process to have the violence that is done to us through air pollution recognized and remedied? The Mountain View and broader South Valley communities have certainly not seen due process in their decades of organizing and in the struggle just to get this hearing. And they have not seen due process in the 2014 civil rights complaint that was filed against the EPA for those same issues. So I want to applaud the board for doing their best to give us due process now. I know it's taken a lot of courage. Some other quick points I want to make that have been raised in this hearing is that some of the air pollutants involved, specifically PM 2.5, are pollutants for which there's no safe threshold for human health. That's the emerging consensus from the EPA. This means that any increase is automatically going to cause more disease, and any decrease in PM 2.5 is going to have benefits. Why can't we all get behind that? And so anyone here opposing the regulation is saying that they must keep emitting more air pollution. They've got to keep making our air more dirty, more dangerous. And they cannot imagine a world in which we have cleaner air here in Albuquerque in Bernalillo County. First, why are we even inviting these people to the table if they can't imagine a better world with us?
If you can wrap it up, please.
So yes, I want to thank the Air Board for their courage in continuing to hold this hearing and urge you to listen to all the people here who are saying that their health has been compromised, as well as the overwhelming data to support it.
Thank you. Next.
Alex Preston.
Mr. Preston, if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Restate your name, please.
Sure. My name is Alex Preston, Preston. Good afternoon. My name is Alex. I come here today as a concerned citizen of Bernalillo County and also someone that holds a master's degree in environmental engineering with a focus on air quality. And I want to express my support of this ruling as well as some of the benefits of cumulative impact policy. I believe clean air is crucial to an individual's well-being and worth protecting in communities where this is not the case. Overburdened communities such as Mountain View are exposed to unhealthy and disproportionate amounts of air pollution. These pollutants include PM 2.5, nitrous oxides, volatile organic compounds, and ozone, to name a few. Each of these pollutants impact human health and life expectancy. Mountain View residents have a 12-year lower life expectancy than more affluent neighborhoods. This is why cumulative impacts are so necessary. While national ambient air quality standards offer broad protections from criteria pollutants, more localized rulings are needed to protect communities that may not be near reference grade air quality sensors. Cumulative impacts are also important to account for reactions that take place after emissions. Reactions such as VOCs, NOx, and UV radiation forming dangerous ground level ozone. While air permits account for pollutant emissions, cumulative impacts are necessary to better understand how these pollutants interact with each other. Finally, cumulative impacts are necessary to account for sensitive populations, socioeconomic factors, and social determinants of health. This is crucial in communities of color that have historically been redlined by industrial zoning because of their race. Serious changes to our permitting process are necessary to remedy the injustices that have already occurred. In summary, this new ruling and cumulative impacts are necessary to protect overburdened communities such as Mountain View, as well as Bernalillo County as a whole. And I want to thank the Air Board for having the courage to stand up to these. And I urge everyone to value human health over industrial profits.
Thank you. Next.
Rose Thunderchief.
evening. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
If you can state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Rose Thunderchief, THUNDERCHIEF. If I may, I'd like to offer a song.
Go ahead, you've got 3 minutes.
Tierra mi cuerpo, agua mi sangre, aire mi aliento, fuego mi espíritu. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, fire, my spirit. These are the 4 elements of life, the 4 essential ingredients, the 4 necessary conditions for life to occur. My name is Rose Thunderchief, y yo nací y crecí aquí en Albuquerque, entre los Sandías y el Rio Grande, pero my friends call it Burque. Let us not forget that this is actually Tiwa territory that we occupy, that we as citizens of Albuquerque and government have trust responsibility to uphold to our native nations. I live, work, play, pray, and learn in the overburdened communities of Singing Arrow and Mountain View. I stand before you as a multi-tribal, multicultural, multilingual Indigenous woman, a mother, a relative, a neighbor, and community member here in the larger ecosystem that is the Middle Rio Grande Valley. I'm here to remind us that air is a necessary ingredient, a necessary condition for life to occur, not just human life, but plant life and animal life as well. Air is the element that connects all life. We all breathe the same air, human, plant, and animal. I'm here to express my support for the health, equity, and environmental impacts regulation on behalf of my human, plant, and animal relatives as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Helen Mueller.
Bueller. Good evening. Raise your right hand, please. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I certainly do.
Okay. State your name, spell your last name.
My name is Helen Juliet Muller.
Muller.
M-U-L-L-E-R, a good German name. Thank you for holding this hearing and hearing all of our testimony. Mine is somewhat different. I'm a professor emeritus at the University of New Mexico from the Anderson Schools of Management. And I was hired in 1982 by the university to start a health administration program. And before that, I worked in Hawaii as a health educator. I got my master's of public health in Hawaii, and I worked at the grassroots level organizing community health planning councils. I wanted to say that when I immediately got here to New Mexico, I began working with Larry Gordon. Has anybody heard of Larry Gordon? Ah, a few people. Very good. Well, the reason why we're here today is because Larry Gordon, who was a national public health person, started the environmental health department here in Albuquerque. And he was very concerned about the quality of our air, soil, water, etc. And I just spoke with one of his employees today who worked with him for 20 years. And she told me that he would be turning over in his grave were he to know about the bitterness and rancor that is happening at trying to establish regulations that are helping underserved and vulnerable communities around air quality. Now we know, and I only have 45 seconds left, that 100 years ago, people established that radiation causes mutations in what we now call the DNA. And other scientists have subsequently discovered and found that particulate matter causes radiation and other deleterious diseases in people. So we're not talking just about our current situation. We are talking about the future of our generations in this community. And I want to commend the board for taking a stand, having these hearings, and helping the community to survive, because that's where we are at with climate change right now and all the contaminants that are coming out of industries. And I am sorry that the University of New Mexico, of which I was an employee, has taken a stance against these regulations. I find it simply appalling. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for continuing to fight for the right cause, saving our people and our future generations.
Thank you. Next.
Tammy Biblecorn. I apologize if I got it wrong.
Counselor. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes.
State your name and spell your last name.
Thank you. I'm Tammy Feeblecorn. It's F as in Frank, I-E-B-E-L-K-O-R-N. I am a member of the Albuquerque City Council. I represent District 7. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I am here, well, mostly because I'm a big fan of clean air, and I think we all are. And I've dedicated my career to fighting against climate change, air quality, water quality. I've spent most of the 30-some years that I've been working in this area, making sure that the benefits of all of these work that we do make it to low-income communities, disadvantaged communities, and historically underserved communities. So I am very thrilled that this hearing is taking place and that you are hearing and giving voice to the members of the community from the Mountain View Coalition. They haven't had a voice for a very long time. And if elected officials, not me, have their way, they might not have a voice anytime in the near future. So I'm especially grateful to this board for giving them this hearing and letting this issue be heard by experts like you. Now, I've dedicated my life to this area. I often think of myself as an air quality expert, but I look up here and I look at the folks that are on this board and I realize that I am not an air quality expert. The members of this board are. And so I'm not going to tell you how to adjudicate this hearing, what to decide. I know that you, in your vast knowledge and expertise, will make the right decision to protect our community from pollution. What I really want to say to you is that I appreciate every one of you and your willingness to help our community, serve our community, give up so much of your time for us. And I'm appalled at the way you have been treated by my fellow city councilors. It is unbelievable to me that anyone would question your expertise, your dedication, and your willingness to do what is right for the city of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, and the people of New Mexico. And so I'm just here tonight to say thank you for everything you do for our community. Thank you for having this hearing. And thank you for not bowing down to bullies.
Thank you. Next.
Paul Ross.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do. There certainly are a lot of articulate folks here tonight, and I'm going to say a few words from an organization that supports people with disabilities called Mandy's Farm, for whom I work, but maybe not quite as well worded as some of those who have come before me. So Mandy's Farm assists individuals with developmental disabilities in achieving their goals for living, learning, and working in Albuquerque and the surrounding area. We do this by providing supported living programs at 3 residences, 2 of which are in the South Valley area. Mandy's Farm provides programming to individuals in the wider community. A lot of our programming occurs in the South Valley, and some of these programs include an agricultural apprenticeship and therapeutic and adaptive horsemanship programs and other outdoor community offerings that support not only individuals with disabilities, but a lot of other folks in the community as well. Because individuals with disabilities are already at a higher risk for respiratory illness, it is imperative to our work as a disability service organization that we advocate for healthy air quality in the Mountain View neighborhood, both for our residents and our employees, and throughout the city and county of Bernalillo. In addition to the direct impacts that we observe with our employees and residents, we'd like to take a moment to voice our concern for indirect impacts to Albuquerque's food shed and wildlife habitats. Operating in the areas of Albuquerque that we do, we have seen that Mountain View and the South Valley are hotspots for biodiversity around Albuquerque, open space around Albuquerque, and a lot of the healthiest food that is available in Albuquerque comes from these communities. And we know that air pollution can have a negative impact on the health of that produce and many other things as well. We are concerned that continued concentration of polluting industry in these areas, specifically adjacent to our farms and open habitats, will continue to degrade Albuquerque's most productive croplands and the remaining hotspots of its beauty and biodiversity. Mandy's Farm has an interest in supporting the community-led efforts that we have seen here today so that we can continue to support the health of our staff and the individuals we serve for generations to come. Thank you all, members of the board, for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Tom Donnellan.
You swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
State your name and spell your last name.
My name is Tom Donnellan, D-O-N-E-L-A-N. And I come to speak to you. First of all, I want to thank you for doing the work that you're doing, for being there to suffer the slings and arrows that are being thrown at you from the city council. As a Bernalillo County resident, I abhor the things that they're saying and doing, and I wish there was some way to stop that action. But part of me wants to go back to what's the very simple process that you're charged to do. You're charged with allowing corporations, companies, to put poison into our air. That these companies don't seem to think that that's a very important piece, that they try to undermine you in terms of your operations is just abhorrent. And it is not a good corporate citizen. And it is delirious that we as human beings are disposable for them to make money is outrageous. And that their actions in trying to stop that is just ridiculous. And it is self-serving for a very short time and doesn't serve us for the long term. I want to thank you for taking and trying to figure out how's the best way to do this. And I think it's been long overdue to consider, when you're saying how much poison gets issued, to not look at what's already there and being that people are having to deal with already. It seems ridiculous that you can't look at the existing situation and put that and consider that when you're making a decision to allow more poison to be put into the air. And I trust you to be able to figure out a way to do that that's equitable and fair, and that continues to allow both us to have an economic base to work from, as well as for us to live here. I thank you very much for doing that work. It is not easy work, I can tell, and I really appreciate what you do every day and every meeting as you try to negotiate what's a reasonable amount of poison to be allowed to put in the air, so that we can do the things that we want to with an economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more comments. And I'll just remind the public that we'll have commenting again tomorrow at 5:30. Next.
Ian Colburn.
You swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, sir. My name is Ian Colburn, Colburn. First off, thanks to all you volunteer board members and everyone who's involved in this, the folks that have taken time to give testimony, the neighbors in Mountain View who've struggled for what sounds like decades, Los Jardines Institute, and all the other community organizations that have helped get us to this point. I'm a farmer, a food systems worker, and a small business owner. My farm is named Farm of Song. This year in 2023, we grew more than 20,000 pounds of fresh vegetables on less than 2 acres. We paid more than $75,000 in wages. Small farmers like mine and my colleagues, and those that Helga Garza of ACN spoke about earlier, the majority of which reside in the South Valley down to Isleta Pueblo on both sides of the river, they require clean air. And which leads to clean water and clean soil to fulfill the mission of our customers. And why we do this work is to provide healthy, nourishing food for our neighbors, which is hard these days to find good quality food. And small farms like these also increase our state's food resiliency. We export something like 90% of the food grown in this state, and it's the small farmers growing fresh vegetables that are keeping the nutrients and food in our communities for those who need it the most. So I wanted to speak as a farmer and give another angle on why it's important for clean air and why we need more farmers, and we're not going to get them if we don't take care of our air. But I also wanted to mention something else. I've been listening to this hearing over the last few days and the city council meetings, and saw that person, the Councilor Lewis, come here yesterday, and that guy is a butthead. But I want to implore everyone, hopefully listening on Zoom and in this room and on the board, to get involved. There's no reason that the council should look like it does in this city. We should have 7 Feeblecorns on the council instead of 1. Over the next year, we have a year and then more years, we can join an organization, we can get involved, we can talk to our neighbors, our friends, and our families with respect and patience, but towards a goal of electing a city leadership that serves the people. And we need to understand that industry is there, it creates jobs, but there's experts in the room, and we have all these people here that obviously we value health over everything, and we can create jobs under that. UNM's not going to leave, Sandia Labs isn't going to leave if we pass this regulation and make it harder to pollute. So I implore everyone to join an organization and get involved, and let's kick out Dan Lewis. We're coming for him. So thanks again.
Thank you. We have time for one more, and I'll just remind the public that they can submit written comment as well. Next.
Mr. Hearing Officer, I just wanted to let you know I have 1 more signed up for in person and 7 online.
Okay. Well, I believe those 7 online may have to come back tomorrow. And they can submit written comment, as I stated.
Laura Silva.
Mr. Celery, do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
You've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Last name is Silva, S-I-L-V-A.
Thank you.
In planetia intonatio. Que el sol de su sol sea muy brillante, más brillante cada día. May the light within you be brighter every day. We are solar beings. The cells of a spark from the sun has created the life on this earth, and all of us carry that spark within us. And for that reason, we need to be respectful of that. I want to thank the board, the attorney, hearing officer, for your diligent listening to all of the testimony, the concerns that we have in the community. I am the president of the Mountain View Neighborhood Association. I've been an attorney for 32 years, and I've been a social advocate for more than that, farm workers and many things. But today I find myself before you because we've been researching as community members of all of the contamination. The stories that we've heard from our neighbors in Mountain View have been difficult to listen to when the children are sick, when their elders are sick. I myself am 79 years old. I practiced law for 32 years, mostly criminal defense. I'm not an environmental lawyer and I'm not an environmental specialist, but this is the kind of things that we've seen in Mountain View. I already mentioned the Superfund sites and all the other contamination sites. I have a 62 slideshow presentation that I could show at your convenience, but not tonight, of course. What I want to do is recognize the diligence and the self-sacrifice that this board has made in listening to us and to our petitions. We have suffered from the environmental contamination. That's the last thing I want to share with you. Our own experience. My daughter is on oxygen 24/7. She has 300-pound tanks of liquid oxygen that she has to live to survive. She has serious neurological problems. I myself had open heart surgery almost 30 years ago. I have diabetes, high blood pressure, and a series of other things. Some of you on the board, I served on the board in the 1980s on this board, on the Air Quality Board. I also served on the County Planning Commission for 4 years. I also served with San Diego National Labs 9 years on the Citizens Advisory Council on Environmental Remediation. So some of these concerns that I have are definitely related to the air quality that we've been researching and putting forth to you here today. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all of your concern. Again, thank all the people that have spoken here today in the last few days and the courage that they've had to stand forth and speak up. Thank you,
Mr. Silva. That concludes public comment for this evening. We'll be in recess till 7 o'clock.